Forgotten Age.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Pirate101. I used to upload this a couple of years ago. I would do some solos with like cool lo-fi music in the background, no commentary, but now we've got some commentary. And first order of business I'll be going over is my new favorite Witchdoctor build. It is a Readied Spell 5 build that I think is a little bit more budget friendly than the ones that run the Conqueror's outfit, which you get from the Hoodoo bundle. So yeah, let's get straight into it. First up is the hat. This is a required piece for this build specifically, and that is the Hekate's Underworld hat. This hat is very useful because it gives a ton of accuracy, a ton of will, and some good spell power, as well as a ton of health, and a rank of Readied Spell, which is what we really want. Alternatives, there aren't really any if you want to run Readied Spell 5, but you could run, Sewer King's hat for Valor, or Fu Manchu hat, but then you're really straying away from what this build does. Next up for the robe, I only use one robe, and that is of course the Blood's Obsidian Jacket. You can use the 35 version or the 70 version. I find the 70 version easier to farm for because you don't have to go through all of Miranda. Alternatives, you could use whatever you want. This is just what I think is the most useful, and it's, I would say, pretty obtainable. For the boots, I'm personally running the Hekate's Underworld boots. Same with the hat, it gives a ton of accuracy, will, spell power, and health. We see more in these recent updates that stats kind of have to mean a lot more than they did before. And also, really important is this gives a rank of Eagle Eyes, which is super useful for your companions like Mormo or Carcarius or Old Scratch. Alternatives, you could run the Underworld Warlord boots, which give the team heal and similar stats. If you have Tide boots, of course, use Tide boots. Those are still insane. I don't have those on this account, so I'm just going to be running Hekate's. You could use Fu Manchu boots. Pretty much any boot will suffice, but I think that this is best, unless you have Tide. Moving into the weapons, there's a few, as you can see, that I think are pretty decent, and this is for the hybrid version. If you want to run the pure staffy, I would recommend the Steno Staff, the Fu Manchu Wand, or the Fool's Wand, and those all give 6 range. But for the shooting staffy, I personally run Weapons of the Waster. It gives 5 attack range, and that's mostly what we're looking for here. We don't really care about the damage. Alternatively, you could use the Burns Technomancer set. It gives 3 range, but it does give a rank of Witch Hunter and the Haywire Shot. And then my second place would be Sinbad's Mojo Shooter. It gives a nice team heal and has 4 range. So I would rank it Weapons of the Waster, Sinbad's Mojo Shooter, and Burns Technomancer. And then the eye patch, I'm personally running the Daring Stripes. Such an insane, fun piece to use with the Maelstrom. And obviously the 10 spell power is pretty nice too. Alternatively, you could use just the Smuggler's Mask that gives a rank of Mojo, just 5% spell power. You could also use Patch of St. Fido if you're worried about missing your Readied Spell 5s. Moving on to the totem, we have another required piece. This is the Sinbad's Silver Trinket. You could also use the Gold Trinket, but we just care about the Readied Spell rank. You can't really use any alternatives for this unless you want to stray away from what the build is at its core. Now for the charms, there's a couple of options here. I personally use the Cerberus Collar for the rank of Double Tap and Mojo Rising. It helps you chain a lot more. But if you, again, care about missing and being accurate, Obsidian Brass Medallion, I think, is still a pretty decent option. Bunch of will, bunch of accuracy. Or you could use just a Mojo Mastery spell power necklace. I would recommend the one with Sniper Shot or Ruse if you're going to go for this, not the Mighty Charge like I have. And then going into rings, I have a few options that I sometimes switch between. The major one I use is the Mojo Mastery Sniper Shot ring. Super fun. Sniper Shot is a guaranteed super hit, so it's a guaranteed crit, and it could help you unload a chain if you're in the late game of a solo. Otherwise, you could use the copper ring that gives the 10-round Valor, or the gold ring that gives the 5-round Valor and a rank of Hold the Line. And then moving into the pet, the final piece that brings this thing all together. The only thing you need on it is Readied Spell. As you can see, this pet failed at 50 with Vengeance Strike. I was very sad, but it is still a great pet nonetheless. I'm going to be trying to get a better one. Ideally, I'd want Readied Spell, Double Tap, Burst Fire, maybe Witch Hunter or Overwatch. And speaking of which, let's get to the talents. So I have Naturally Spooky. That is the Krokotopia, like you were raised by Krokotopia in the beginning of the game. And then Shooty Weapons 2 that you get from the Musketeer trainer. I have Fast 2 from the Swashbuckler trainer. And then I have Burst Fire, which requires Shooty Weapons 2, and that's from the Clandestine trainer. Spooky 3 and Staffy Weapons 3 you get naturally as a Witchdoctor. I have Overwatch 2, which you get from the Clandestine trainer. A third rank you could get from your pet. Mojo Echo 2 is default from being a Witchdoctor from the Witchdoctor trainer. Witch Hunter 1 you get from the Clandestine trainer. I have a second rank for my pet. I don't believe it's necessary. I have a single rank of Mojo Mastery. If you want to use the ring and the Smuggler's Mask, you'd have 2 ranks. So one would give you 4% and the other would give you 5. And then finally Eagle Eyes, giving your allies an additional range. Super useful. I have Double Tap 1 because my pet doesn't have it, but I would have Double Tap 2 with a good pet. Readied Spell 5, the bread and butter of this entire build, and then Mojo Rising 2 with Cerberus's Collar. So, what kind of companion loadout do you want to use with this build? Classic, Scratch, Gracie, Mormo. Super useful. You get tons of Mojo buffs. You can have the Construct Golem to block an incoming melee enemy, and then the Mine to blow up an enemy. Mormo has the Mojo Blade. If someone comes up to you, you have got the Mojo Storm. You've got the Mutineer's Grasp. But also, I've started to like Crow Song a lot. If you're running the hybrid Shooty Staffy, if you put Crow Song on your pirate, it will give you Quick Draw, which means you could go toe-to-toe with some Musketeer enemies. Just be careful that they don't have Witch Hunter. If a ranged enemy has Witch Hunter, when you start proccing your Mojo Echoes and your Mojo Risings, they will chain onto you. It is very tough. Otherwise, sometimes I use the Serpent that has Morn Song. It's a very niche use, but it is still pretty fun to use. And if you need some melee power, Kanpo is your bread and butter, El Toro, and also sometimes Ratbeard. If you need a tank, he will stop enemies with Hold the Line 3 and Repel 3. This will reduce their accuracy and their dodge. Carcarius, I don't think he's that useful. Sure, he has Embrace and the Will buff, but I don't think he's just that good. I would much rather use Mormo with the Storm or Gracie with the Mine. Bonnie Ann's also a pretty decent option. She has Overwatch 3 and also the Scatterblast that reduces dodge. But other than that, I don't think there's any other good options for companions. So, what do the stats look like? With everything that I use, I have 112 Will. I have 300 Weapon Power. I've got 336 Spell Power. We have 3 ranks of Spooky, Naturally Spooky, Mojo Mastery, and then the gear that we use. 150 Accuracy, which is pretty nuts from what builds would previously have. So you have 30 from the Hakate's gear, and then also I have Accurate 2 from, I believe, like the Buccaneer trainer, because I had an extra skill point left. And that just gives me a little extra oomph. Dodge, doesn't matter. Armor, doesn't matter. Magic resist, doesn't matter. Health, 3,000, pretty solid. You can take a little bit of hits, but you are still pretty weak as a Witchdoctor, which is why Ready Spell 5 is so nice. So yeah, that about covers this Witchdoctor build, Ready Spell 5. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you.